Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. First preseason football edition. We have actual football to talk about. Real snaps, real players. I'm joined by a real live boy, fresh off touring training camps, which is why he's so tan for the audio audience. Ben Solak, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I was sitting in my hotel in Indianapolis, Indiana, just scrolling through TikTok, burning the time, and I got a Seth Meyers TikTok for preseason football with Mina Kimes Mina Kimes sitting in the guest chair. That was sick.
Seth Meyers, huge preseason football sicko. I learned he was like he saw the. We're going to talk about Travis Hunter, the rep of Caleb Johnson on Travis Hunter. He's a Steelers fan. Yeah, no, that was really fun. It's on YouTube if anyone wants to go watch. I sent you a list of mostly quarterbacks to dive into because this is our first look at a few of the quarterbacks. And then I also want you to play a game with me called Is This Real? Where we decide how real certain things are, such as Cam Little nailing every field goal from 70 plus yards. This is actually a weirdly big story, I think. But yeah, like I feel like the quarterbacks are the natural place to start. We are now a few days removed from Shedeur Sanders completely taking over everybody's timeline. Overreactions, underreactions. Unsurprisingly, there were a lot of feelings about his first start. I wanted to start there with you. We're going to talk about, again, we're going to talk about the Colts. You're in Indianapolis, the Colts quarterback competition, if we call it that. The Saints are in a quarterback competition. I want to talk to you about Cam Ward got a first look at him, which is really interesting. But we're going to start with Shedeur. 14 for 23, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think I'll go first. The first few reps, I was pretty worried. I'm not going to lie. Especially when, I think it was early on, he had a couple of those bad bails, the likes of which we saw in college where he's, got really, and we could talk about this, I think it didn't seem like he's quite there yet in terms of understanding what he is and isn't capable of physically, and going against the Panthers backups. Again, I know I sound like I'm just diminishing him right off the bat, but there are things you can get away with in those games that he will not be able to get away with in terms of fleeing the pocket against better competition. However, as it went on, I think you also saw some of the traits that I liked about him in college, notably the accuracy, the touch, the ability to access the middle of the field, which is why I always thought he was kind of an interesting fit for Kevin Stefanski's offense. And a couple of really nice balls. Obviously, the touchdowns, one of which was like a really lovely layered throw to the back of the end zone. I thought the throw he made backed up in his own, it was maybe around the 10 or so, where instead of fleeing the pocket, he just did a little shuffle to the right and then ripped the dig. That was really encouraging. So, ups and downs, but I think if we're talking about a quarterback who was, in QB4 in the competition, was not getting reps with the ones going into this and then was thrust into the game because of all the injuries, I think that's a win for him, honestly. Like, I know that they're going to roll out their depth chart where it's still Flacco and Shedeur at the bottom, but in my mind, he has made a case for himself as QB2 at minimum.
Yeah, I think that the first emphatic thing to say is right. This is much better than round 5 quarterbacks typically look in the preseason, right? And then the early and immediate response is, well, he was a much better prospect than the round 5 quarterbacks typically are, right? And that brings us back to the drum of April, right? Brings us back to the fall, and okay, he didn't go round 1, but surely he'll go day 2, and then he doesn't go day 2, and then that's just the driving narrative for the entire day 3 of the NFL draft is how is Sanders still falling? What team will end up grabbing him, and how will the team that does draft him end up dealing with the hype and dealing with the expectations from the fan base and the players in the locker room who are going to want the Sanders magic. And I hesitate to call it a sideshow because it's not actually a sideshow. It's kind of really more front and center. But all of the off-field stuff, field periphery stuff that comes with a QB4. So clearly talent-wise, he is better than we expect from a fifth-round quarterback. Okay, we saw that in Colorado. We saw that here. Great, excellent, whatever. Not getting to see Gabriel makes it trickier, right? Because you do wonder, okay, like it would have been nice to get a frame of reference for the other rookie. Where's he at in his pocket management, right? You brought up the dig to Lavardi and that backed up there. Like that's like a nice veteran pocket managing sort of, okay, if you can do this every single time, we can make an offense around you sort of a play. That to me shows that he's feeling stuff out. He's figuring things out in terms of NFL speed. It'd be great if we had seen Gabriel back there either do the same or do the exact opposite, right? And like, have his panic moments and like, like Sanders had in his first drive, because then you get a better sense of like, okay, is he so clearly outpacing Gabriel that the draft capital doesn't matter? Or is this probably still, he's QB4 because they invested in an earlier pick and the top guy, and that's just typically how it goes on depth charts, right? Teams double dip a lot, and it's really hard to break the double dip expectations. It usually takes a couple of off seasons. And so clearly better than we might have thought for a player of his draft capital. Enough to like tectonically shift the Browns quarterback room? I can't answer that yet.
Yeah. So Gabriel and Pickett, I think both have hamstring injuries, and up to this point, I've said this again, they've been the ones, right? And even in this game, you're seeing Shedeur Sanders. He's playing with backups. I mean, it's mostly players, frankly, I was learning of for the first time. The guy who caught the beautiful one-handed catch down the sideline where Shedeur kind of escaped, and then he kind of layered it over the linebacker. Floria was his name. I was like, dang, all right.
So, yeah.
And then he immediately got hurt. I think I saw that, which is a bummer. But yeah, it is hard to have like a pure quarterback competition when it's just such a mess. And I think your point about Gabriel and the comp is significant because, and I've said this from the beginning with the Browns this year, their whole approach to the position was just, let's just throw a ton of resources at it. Let's not spend a lot on it. And let's just see if we happen to hit one of these dart throws. I also think it's very important to them to find a quarterback who will run Kevin Stefanski's offense. This was a lot of the drama with Deshaun Watson. Well, many things with Deshaun Watson, but one of the many reasons why that whole experiment failed was it felt like a clash of ideas. The quarterback and the play caller didn't see eye to eye. They tried to bend the offense to make it more Deshaun Watson-like, but he was not the kind of quarterback at this point who you build an offense around. It was just exercising futility. So you get Flacco back, who you can run the offense with. They draft Dylan Gabriel, who I believe they drafted because they believed he was a good fit for Kevin Stefanski's offense. And then you have Sanders. And I really, Ben, like I keep going back to this in terms of my pre-draft thoughts on him. I genuinely believe if he cuts down on the pocket bailing, which is, by far, I think the biggest sting on him and was the biggest sting in this game, he can run this offense. He is like, you like the throws we were talking to are the ones you have to make to run this. And I mentioned the dig backed up in his own. So at the second touchdown, I think it was the one that was, I don't think it was second. It was the one, not the one that was the like touch ball to the back. But it was like, to Davis, I think.
Yeah, Caden Davis. They run the clear out and then they run the in cut behind it. Yeah. Little Dino in the red zone, baby. We love it.
The switch release on the right with the double.
Yeah.
And that was another example, I thought, of Sanders' little sidestep, doesn't flee the pocket, fires it in. And I'm watching that, I'm thinking, yeah, if he can do this, this can work. I'm not going to say it's going to be amazing. I'm not saying that, he's this, there were folks already like taking victory laps on social media.
Well, you got to.
I mean, it really felt like both the positives and the negatives around Shedeur, like the overreactions, whether it was like people saying, see, he was, this, I see Joe Burrow or whatever. I know I'm doing a little bit of straw manning. Or people saying like, oh, he's walking in with like, this is why people didn't want him, because he was walking in with his like teammates doing a little gag. Yeah. It almost felt like neither of these people had ever watched preseason football before. Like, can we just like not both ways?
This entire week one of preseason has been a lot of, have we ever seen preseason football before?
I know. Some of the victory, we'll talk about some of the other quarterbacks and stuff. But in any case, I felt like he certainly made a case for himself to continue competing. I think that's kind of where I come down with this. And I had him over Gabriel. In my estimation, we got to see Gabriel. That's the quarterback competition, though. I think you're right to single out. Like, those are the two guys who, if you're a Browns fan, you want one of them to win, even if they end up starting Joe Flacco to begin with.
Yeah, and that's why I think the really important thing for those hoping to see Shedeur Sanders start a game for the Cleveland Browns this season, of which I firmly count myself as one. I would very much like to see that. Firstly, it'd be a great week. All right, we do a lot of fun stuff beforehand. There'd be a ton of the stadium entrance. I would dig it. But even just from I had the guy QB2. I thought he was underdrafted. I think he's talented enough to play in the NFL. I would like to see him play that game. So for those of us who are in that camp, we really want to see him play a game. What he did against the Panthers in the third quarter with the third stringers against their backups is remarkably more significant than whether or not he's getting first team reps in camp. I promise you it is. Like, first team reps in camp sound like a really big deal. And as somebody who was just at 11 training camps, when the first team goes out there, they have 2 illegal formation penalties and they throw a bunch of day one install West Coast concepts. And then when the second team goes out there, they do the exact same thing. And teams and coaching staffs are scripting practices and scripting plays and making opportunities and asking players to do weird things outside of their comfort zone just to learn and just to information gather. I promise you, there will not be a moment in week 6 where Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees sit down and they go, man, we'd like to start Sanders this week, but we didn't give him enough first team reps in August to make the switch. I assure you it will not be prohibitive to us getting that action if and when he continues to stay on the roster. He does well as quarterback too. He's preparing nicely. A quarterback in front of him gets hurt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think proof of concept, right, is kind of what you're just getting more and more proof of concept. Even the nice touchdown that everybody's focused, the touch throw, that was under center, booting to his left.
Yeah,
he wasn't under center a lot in college. So, but now you're saying, okay, like this is we're. I noticed, by the way, a lot of the young quarterbacks were under center in preseason. I feel like a lot of these coordinators really want to get him those reps. All right. Well, if Shedeur Sanders was I feel comfortable saying a week 1 winner. We have to say Anthony Richardson was a week 1 loser. And it's unfair. You know, you feel bad saying a player got injured, but he is loser not so far as his play, which we barely saw, but there's a quarterback competition in Indianapolis that's far more like whoever wins this one is starting between him and Daniel Jones, and it's a big setback for him, I think. I was joking with the fantasy guys, Danny and Danny, on their pod. The second that he got sacked because he didn't throw hot, it was like all the film guys on the internet had all this pent up film energy, and they were like, everybody was putting out their 10-minute breakdowns. I was like, I mean,
each video got longer than the last one, right? Somebody put out a 3-minute video. This is how empty protection works. The next one was 5. The next one was 10. And I was just like, man, we are starved. We are just a parched and desperate film watching generation. We needed it.
There's very little to take from him. You know, I think his first completion he was under center too. It was a deep comeback or something to AD. Mitchell, who was good to see him getting a lot of action out there. He hit Warren on an RPO. That to me was much more about Tyler Warren, who we'll talk about in a second, who got a lot of run in this game. Sat too long in a clean pocket on a deep post after that, and then the sack happens, so he's out. So Daniel Jones comes in and looks like Daniel Jones. I went back and I watched, because he played a lot in this game. It was interesting to watch him in Shane Steichen's offense. I'll say that, first of all, because you saw this is why they brought in Daniel Jones, I believe, is Shane Steichen's belief that okay, we can run some QB run with him. He's going to be, it's a lot of RPO, so many RPOs in this game, by the way. He's going to be fairly accurate on the underneath stuff, not really pushing the ball downfield too much. And that's what you saw. There were some drops, apparently, continuing with the Colts receivers. Generally decent decision making, some inaccurate balls, particularly deep. I felt like he just kind of looked like the same quarterback he's been for the last 3 years, and things have generally stabilized with him.
Yeah, I think that as far as things that we theorized on in March and got right in August, what will Daniel Jones look like in the Shane Steichen offense was just, exactly. The pins were lined up and you knocked them down, and that's what it was. The base of this offense in the Gardner Minshew era, in the moments of the Anthony Richardson era that we've seen, has been the RPO, has been a lot of the immediate post-snap read one guy decisions, and that'll make our running game work. That'll get the ball into the hands of our playmakers. That'll activate Josh Downs for us and Michael Pittman for us. And they've been trying to access more explosives and downfield stuff, and more athleticism at wide receiver with Alec Pierce and Adonai Mitchell, and they've had moments of that being successful, but it just has never become like a foundational part of the offense, in large part because of Richardson's lack of availability. Well, lo and behold, Daniel Jones is there, and it's like, yeah, this guy can just point guard the parts of the offense that we expect him to point guard. The hope here is that he's just a little bit better of a runner and a little bit better of a downfield thrower than Gardner Minshew was in this offense 2 years ago. Obviously, with a player in Tyler Warren and a player in Adonai Mitchell and a growth from Alec Pierce that you haven't had previously, so it'll be a little bit better accessing that downfield area of the field. I can't watch Daniel Jones in this Colts offense in that preseason game, and then that was the last camp I was at, and be like, woo! Like, I just don't got it. It's okay. So hard to get there.
I will say Tyler Warren made me go woo a few times watching the tape. Yep. I mean, that to me, you don't want to overreact to preseason competition, all of that. But I'm watching him, the way they used him as well, down both, I mentioned the RPO early with Richardson, but then they used it in like a number of ways. I thought that was really interesting, including downfield. He just looks like he belongs. I mean, like coming out of college, I think there was just the question, okay, this guy was, one of the best tight ends after the catch that we've seen in a while. We'll see how he develops as a blocker and as a route runner, some of the other aspects of his game. But to me, like that, it completely translated at this level. Again, obviously with backups for much of the game, but like I would be very surprised if whoever is playing quarterback, he is not immediately a focal point in this offense, and he allows them to, I think, work the middle of the field in a way that, like for Shane Steichen in particular, has to be very attractive. And if it's Richardson, it's immensely important because Richardson's been, his major flaw has been accuracy underneath, and Warren to me really does solve a lot of those problems, but they have to be on the field at the same time.
Yeah, and if you're going to be an RPO team, it's you reach a limit in terms of what you can do on the chalkboard when you're really working your back to your receivers, right? When they haven't had just any player at tight end, like, it's been Kylan Granson and it's been, Will Mallory, and just like the threat as a blocker and then as a receiver, it just very much limits the number of wrinkles you can put in when you don't have a tight end, a guy who can move through the backfield, line up in the backfield at H-back and find ways to leverage him, right? When you're just using it with receivers, it becomes very collegey, it becomes very spready. In the NFL, you really want to be able to leverage your tight end on a lot of that stuff. And so Warren adds schematic depth to their RPO game that I think will make it a lot more sustainable. And then the down the field stuff, man, like I think that
they ran leak with him. Am I misremembering that at one point? They ran like a leak with Warren, and I was.
Yeah, I don't think they targeted him on it. Was that
maybe I don't know. I feel like it was later in the game. It wasn't with Richardson. I think with Daniel at one point. But I got really excited seeing him downfield.
Yeah, and when you go and you look at Jones's downfield passing when he was with the Giants, a lot of it was like he doesn't like the Darius Slayton player as much. Like, all right, this guy's speed, he's even, he's leaving me hanging out there. He much more so prefers the Darren Waller, this guy is just big, I can throw it up near him and he'll make me right sort of prototype. And that is obviously much more so where your Warren eats, where your Alec Pierce eats. So yeah, I asked somebody at Colts camp, I said, who's going to lead this team in targets? And they said pretty quickly, Tyler Warren. And I was like, there's 4 receivers on this team that were taken day 2 or earlier. And they were like, yeah, Tyler Warren.
I love your point about the tight end in the RPO game. And it takes me back to Kellen Moore's Shane Steichen. Kellen Moore, Shane Steichen. In Philadelphia, the way that they would use Dallas Goedert, right?
Slide RPO, baby.
Slide RPO. Yeah, it's just such an easy button, especially and obviously in Philadelphia when defenders have to account for so many other things. But I think, the Colts receivers are not bad. I'm still optimistic about A.D. Mitchell. Like there should be significant opportunities for him. So look, I know if you're a Colts fan, you're watching that, you're just like, geez, Louise. I mean, it sounds like Richardson is gonna be back quickly. It's just a pinky issue.
He was practicing when I was there on Monday.
He can't miss. This is it. This feels like it. He has to stay on the field. Anyways, Daniel Jones gets a leg up in the competition. But as a Colts fan, I don't think you feel pretty happy about that or about what happened with Richardson. At least you can feel happy about Tyler Warren because he, to me, looks like.
And I feel like the quarterbacks coming off of that game of the big storyline, understandably so, Richardson and blowing the protection. They have two new offensive linemen starting this year. Center Tanner Bortolini, who played some snaps last year, and then right guard Matt Gonsalves, whose name I've been saying completely incorrectly, I learned this week. So Matt Gonsalves, who was a fill-in right tackle for them last year and is now playing right guard. Ravens have a good deep defensive line. I understand that. This team needs to be able to run the football well, and they got to be. They have historically been able to be really good with their five up front. And I think Bortolini is a he's a smaller player and he's good at what he's good at. He's bad at whatever. Gonsalves at right guard is a work in progress, and I think that especially as you talk about Richardson not getting banged up, I wouldn't be surprised if this offensive line is still getting its footing when we get to live football in September, and that could be a problem for your turnover-prone, injury-prone quarterback back there.
Speaking of offensive lines that are still getting their footing, that brings us to the New Orleans Saints. Winner loser is a little tough with this one because I was going to ask you in the Saints quarterback competition, who do we think made strides? I guess maybe.
That's
pulled a little ahead.
No one strode. I thought Shuck had a better day than Rattler. I thought Shuck also was playing against a level below the Chargers' defensive depth chart than Rattler was. I also think Shuck played better than Rattler in the sense that Shuck completed a double move touchdown to Mason Tipton. And that's like, you kind of hang. Yeah, exactly. And
really,
and he had another vertical shot to Kevin Austin that I thought was a good ball, and just the receiver he was thrown to is not a receiver with a ton of with like a second gear necessarily. So I did think that Shuck was acceptable, but it's nothing that I'm like, clipping for the timeline. And then Rattler had a couple of good moments as well. Like Jack Stoll dropped what I thought was a nicely placed seam ball for him. Like there were classic Ratman moments where you're like, ooh, look at the arm talent. Ooh, look at the release. But in general, man, not stoked about what I'm seeing out of the Saints quarterback competition.
But I will say for both quarterbacks, but particularly Rattler, I mean, the offensive line still looks like a real problem, and guys were not open. So obviously Olave and Shaheed didn't play unless I missed it. No. The only upside I'll say is the forced fumble. Rattler got strip sacked. I thought it was Fuanga, and I was like, oh no. And it turned out to be Dylan Radins who had come in. I missed that. Yep. So it's actually a good thing, I think, for the Saints fans that because they had Banks Jr. at left tackle. I actually thought he didn't look that bad, to be honest. Yeah. And then Fuanga played a little bit. Talise Fuanga is the right tackle, who's their other first rounder from last year. So that's the starting orientation. The interior to me was the problem, and they were down a couple starters there. Trevor Penning we talked about this a little bit, got moved from left tackle to left guard. I saw him get beat a couple of times. Again, this isn't like an apologia for Spencer Rattler, but it was not good. Guys were not open, and it just kind of looked like it did last year for him, where you're like, I don't know how much of this is the quarterback versus his circumstances. Shuck was a little bit more interesting because he got to go against a tick down in terms of the competition. I was actually really encouraged by the 2-minute drill that he led before the halftime, where you're like, okay, the ball's coming out quick. He's thrown over the middle of the field. He looks like he belongs there. And then comes out the second half, stares down the out and gets pick sixed. And then comes right back. And I think
that's a classic college speed to NFL speed interception. Totally, that's one where I'm always like, all right, we all get that. Yeah, it happens. There we go. Yeah.
I think you saw kind of like the good and bad from him in this game. It's similar to all these guys. So we're going to talk about Cam Ward, similar to Shedeur, where it's like, okay, he kind of looks like he did in college. Like you saw the arm strength. He has a really strong arm. Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful go ball to Mason Tipton, right? Yeah. It was like 54 yards or something, right? And he's got a really good arm. He's got good arm talent. You saw that there was like a boot where he faced pressure and he sidearmed it that I thought, okay, I remember seeing a lot of this in college. But then you saw it wasn't a boot. He scrambled and escaped. But then you also saw, like some of the struggles with pressure. I think he looked like a rookie. So I guess he got a little bit of a leg up. I think you probably want to see him with the starters. I think both of these guys you'd want to see with the starters before you arrive at any conclusions, because I don't think either of the the receivers in the line didn't do either of them any favors. Jake Haener, his interception was worse.
Once Haener went in, I turned the film off.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I've seen what I need to see.
Briefly on the flip side, so by the way, this is NFC South is later this week, so I'll be talking about the Saints offense outside of the quarterbacks more in depth there with John Ledyard and the defense. On the flip side, just a quick acknowledgement of the Trey Lance start. He looked fine. He just looked really athletic to me. I didn't think as a thrower much really resonated. The other thing I will say about the Chargers, because they're facing their backups, they're just so clearly well coached. Did you feel that watching the Chargers defense?
I sent exactly, like, Jesse Minter's just such a good coach. I sent that exact text to somebody watching that. It's just like the third round Nichols is coming up making tackles, and you're just like, all right, like, it's just they just get it. They're so good.
What's the name of the dude who picked them twice? Eric Rogers. Holy mackerel.
Caleb Murphy had the strip sack. Grand Rapids GOAT. Okay. Grand Valley State University to Ferry State University transfer. Jamari Caldwell, the third rounder out of Oregon.
Yes, he had a big play. That's actually important. They might need him to.
And then Justin Egbiogbe, the fifth rounder out of Alabama, who's like, they have him and Deshaun Hand. They have just two of Saban's like 280-pound defensive ends. We solve problems. Like, they just got those guys in the building. I was 100% nerding out at the hustle and assignment sound football in the third quarter of the Chargers defense, I have to admit.
Okay. Cam Ward. I'm marking him down as a winner. My real winner is Calvin Ridley, because that was my big takeaway from this game is Calvin Ridley is going to catch 1 million passes this year. Mm-hmm. You saw in real, you could feel Cam Ward just like locking in on him, like really early.
He had, I want to say 3 third down targets in a row, or maybe it might have been 2. Oh, look.
He was looking for him on every play.
He was getting the designers.
But I thought this was a good start. He comes out first drive. You're like, ooh, he's getting his sea legs under him. He bailed backwards. He had one of those moments, which was similar to Shedeur. That was the ding on him in college. Is he looks so good when the ball comes out quick, and he's got this great arm talent. But he had a lot of doing too much moments, shall we call it? And then in the first drive, he misses Ridley. He bails backwards on a play, but then the second drive comes out, and you start saying, I think, the things that made him the number 1 overall pick. I would say, I just love how snappy he is as a thrower, right? Like he is able to throw to all 3 levels really quickly and from different platforms in different situations inside the pocket. And I think you saw all of that. I loved the ball placement on the deep over to Ridley. Just perfect football. Probably of like all the young quarterbacks, that was like the best ball of the week for me. Mm-hmm. And like it just kind of felt like he got into a rhythm on getting the ball out quick when he hit mesh, Lockett off of mesh for the first down to set up the touchdown. Like it was just like, okay, like this. He looks to me like the best quarterback in the draft, and I feel like that showed up.
Yeah, there was a 3rd and 9 conversion when they're getting in the red zone to Okonkwo, where he hits Okonkwo on the over the ball route, right? And it's I want to say it's 5-step drop timing. They've got like a couple of routes down the field, right? And the Bucks rotate coverage a little bit, and so there's space right away for Okonkwo, and Ward shortcuts the progression, right? So he skips here, they move here, and he shortcuts his footwork, right? He doesn't 5-step and then hitch into it. He lands on the back foot of the drop and just immediately opens his hips to uncork it, just to say, all right, if the space is there right now, I'm going to throw this like not just on time, early, so it's going to hit Okonkwo right when he turns, and they won't have any time to relate to this route. That right there is like, okay, he gets it. Yeah. They get it. Just what is fundamental to playing quarterback from the pocket at the NFL level against NFL defenses. This guy understands that throw's not always going to be perfect because he's going to chemistry with his receivers. He's got young guys, whatever, and the mechanics aren't always going to be gorgeous. The accuracy might always be perfect, but just making that process is just like, oh, like that moment is better than any moment I got from JJ McCarthy or Anthony Richardson or Tyler Shuck this preseason. That moment right there was like 201 stuff.
I think you describing exactly what I'm trying to say, which is like there was a lot of things that I felt like will translate in versus starters in real action, and the most important thing is what you're describing there, which is what we liked best about him, which is his arm talent inside the pocket. He's just twitched up, the ball comes out fast. He's smart. He's good at reading defenses. He's, I think, generally like a pretty good. He's pretty accurate in terms of ball placement as well. Again, the over to Ridley was the one that really jumped out to me in that regard. But yeah, that the quick release on the throw to Chig too. Yeah, fantastic. So I think if you're a Titans fan, the other thing you're encouraged about, I thought the new offensive line looked pretty damn good. It's again still work in progress. I do not love this group of pass catchers outside of Calvin Ridley, but the bones are there for it. You feel good. It's a good start. Good week one.
As someone with just worlds of Chigakonkwo stock, I'm so ready for.
Somebody's got to catch the ball.
Yeah, I'm so ready for
telling
target
you guys
to
right now,
Chigakonkwo.
though. I was thinking about this. I mentioned he got the first down hitting Lockett on the shallow. Yeah. Tyler Lockett's going to catch an annoying amount of footballs this year in the South. Just get ready for it.
Just with free releases and just falling down 6 yards past the line of scrimmage.
But he's going to catch them all. He's going to be open. He's that line, he's a good signing.
That line, by the way, gets Lloyd Cushenberry back. He just came off of pop, passed his physical, and steps into center. I tell you, 5 across. This is it's a high floor line. It's also high ceiling, right? Like J.C. Latham, Lloyd Cushenberry. Tony Pollard just had himself a very nice season running between the tackles. He's not the same player he was in Dallas, where he wasn't reliable behind the tackles. He's 100% improved there. Bill Callahan's an offensive line coach. Would not be surprised if the Titans run the dang ball this year. I'm excited.
I do want to address the other two. JJ McCarthy's not a rookie, but he's de facto rookie. JJ McCarthy and Jaxson Dart. Before we get to is this real? We can start with McCarthy. I mean, he barely played. This
he had one drive, right? Yeah,
one drive. It was very much the way they probably want to use him during the season. A lot of under center play action, which was kind of like what they drafted him to do in that offense, right? I think, and he had a miss. I'm looking at my notes from them. There were a couple. The thing that stood out to me, he had to make a miss, a couple screen that got blown up. The only thing I think that's noteworthy from this, other than like them using him kind of exactly the way we thought they would, he did not look fearful of contact. And I just wanted to emphasize that because obviously he's coming off of the injury. When he hit Addison, I think it was like a deep out or something, but he got blasted. And so it was like a slightly inaccurate ball. But I thought, okay, great. Like he is fine. He scrambled on the 4th down too, right? I think just that was something I was curious to see, just coming off of the knee injury. How does he look moving back there? How does he look with pressure? And I thought he passed that test. Not a lot else to take away from that in my mind.
Yeah, the miss on the big dig he talked about, and he said, like, he should have held his water for another second and like let the window open. And I thought that was a good summary where like I did think he was like excited. Jittery is probably too much of a negative connotation. He definitely felt jumpy, right? There wasn't like Ward goes out there and Ward just looks so suave in the pocket. McCarthy to me has a lot of like movement in the pocket, and you just get the sense that like, the Bullets are live-ish for the first time in a long time for him, right? He had that major injury. He knows how good this offense can be, and like he felt young and excited in like, again, like not in a super negative way, but just in a way where like you could tell timing wise, he just wanted everything to be fast, wanted to go. It's one drive, right? I think they were very right to say the number one practice part of today is just the practice of getting ready for a game, and then we're going to let you do 3 things, and we're going to reel you back. And I'm sure they'll give him like 3 drives next week, and then they'll reel him back again.
Jaxson Dart played a little bit more. The highlight that's going around, of course, is the touchdown, which was a beautiful ball, really great, well placed. Notably had pressure just bearing right down on it. This is the one, it was a Bills broadcast, and they like barely showed the touchdown because they were talking about the stadium, and then they didn't show the replay. Giants fans were losing this is why I love preseason football.
Preseason's so good, dude.
They're like, why weren't you showing our rookie quarterback throwing his first touchdown? I wanted to see the replay because I was like, I think he just got grilled, and then the NFL posted, and he did. And that's what he did in college, right? He stands tough in the pocket. He has a big arm, and he is willing to take pressure. So I think, notable that translated. I think otherwise looked, he had a few sprays, one of which pissed off Brian Table earlier on. You saw he's, obviously extremely athletic. You saw that as well. I think that's something they're going to lean into. I think Dable actually like called a draw for him at one point.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So, again, I know I sound like a broken record there, but he looked like he did. All these guys look kind of like they did in college, and I felt that way about Jaxson Dart.
I felt that way too. I will say that I feel like a lot of the responses to a lot of the quarterbacks has been this guy looked the way he did in college, and the response to Jaxson Dart has been like, "Holy smokes, baby!" And I just can't like. He played more snaps than the other guys, and so I think there's just more gross good on the film than there were in the other guys. There's more like positive plays to talk about. He's also like late on enough, like there were throws that he wanted to make that he didn't make because he was just way too late on them, which is a totally acceptable thing for a rookie quarterback to be in his first preseason start.
Yeah.
But just those are not making the timeline as much as the touchdown off the sideline is. What I thought most encouraging about Dart's game was that Dable very clearly understands what's going to make this guy successful early, right? Yeah. Dart was a little bit more of a project than people wanted to talk about coming out, simply because the menu of throws and the menu of concepts he was asked to do at Ole Miss were so limited, right? He had more play action pass attempts than any quarterback in football, save for Nico Iamaleava. Frick, I thought I had it. Man, I was so close. Nico, the quarterback for the Tennessee Volunteers now with UCLA. Like it was just, it was a lot of like shot play stuff, Ole Miss choice route stuff. And so the menu that Dable gave him is small. It's very spready. He used him in the quarterback running game. Is a lot of pre-snap reads, RPO stuff as well, talking about with Steichen. That's the menu Dart will need to succeed if and when he starts this season. And so the understanding of where this guy's bread is buttered is good. I'm happy about that.
It's a good point. Giants fans, after the break, we're going to talk about your other rookie. I'm going to bring him up because all right, let's take a quick break. Come back and play Is This Real? All right, I teased it, so we might as well stay with the Giants here. Is this real? The Giants could have the best defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Abdul Carter first? Obviously, that premise has a lot to do with the other players. Dexter Lawrence, who of course didn't play, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. There's also like I was watching, and they have good defensive tackle depth now too, right? Like Nunez Roches, they drafted a couple guys, but I would just want to talk about Abdul Carter. Holy smokes. We're talking about guys and competition, and yeah, he looked okay against the third stringers. Abdul Carter line up against Dion Dawkins, who is, for those who don't know, one of the best left tackles in the NFL. And he notably always lines up on like an island, right? I think he has like wider splits than any offensive lineman left tackle in football. And in one of those reps, Carter put like an inside move on him that made me gasp when I watched it. He looked like one of those, like just one of those rookies who can come in immediately and just shred. They pushed him inside on one of the, he only I think it was like 7 or 8 snaps. But it was definitely I've seen enough moment for me watching him in this game because he's like adding him to that group is insane.
Yeah. The number one thing about preseason and training camp for me is always I want to see the rookies in NFL pads against NFL players. And do you look like you belong? Do you look like physically you should be out there? Are you playing at an NFL speed? And with Carter, it's just like not only yes, but so emphatically yes against some of the best competition you'll see in terms of the Buffalo Bills offensive line in such a dynamic way, which is what you want from your top 5, top 10 pick, right? The Dion Dawkins inside move, which by the way, is the best play of Mitchell Trubisky's life. Trubisky spins away from Abdul Carter, rolls to his left, throws against his body.
I got slept on. It was really.
I couldn't believe it. I legit was like, is Josh smaller? Did Josh shrink over the year? No, it's Mitchell. So I was shout out Mitch.
Rubbed off on him.
Carter also had the early win against Osiris Torrance, the right guard, on a pass rush package, right, where they've got the 3 edge rushers on the field. The Torrance one was funny because Carter hits him with the inside move. And you can see like the red sirens going in Carter's head. It's like, I've got him. And all I got to do is just slam past this heavy-footed 350-pound guard the way that I've always done in college. And then Torrance gets like one hand on him and Carter comes to a screeching halt. It's like, no, they played a little bit of a different weight class up here. That's, again, those NFL moments where you have to learn about the different athleticisms and capabilities. But then he strains through Torrance and he gets the pressure. The NASCAR packages on third down are clearly sick. I think the point you made about Raheem Nunez Roches and Roy Robertson Harris, which I practiced that one beforehand, so I would say together.
They're both good players.
Yeah.
And
Those are such important players because you have to be able to win on early downs to get to your NASCAR packages. You have to be able to get to third and longs, and they have better defensive tackle depth than I think they've ever had before behind Dexter Lawrence.
It's a great point about run defense because teams are going to run a lot on them on first down, I believe, or they're going to face a lot of quick throws. So I think the linebackers are going to matter a lot too in this defense, just because every offense that plays this team is going to spend their entire week game planning for this pass rush, not wanting to face that NASCAR package. So I think, for Shane Bowen in this Giants defense, and then we'll see, what in terms of the offense, complementary football, how much they're having to, like, maybe they're unfortunately like on the field a lot and teams are able to run the ball and all of that. But it really comes down to like, okay, how can we get into situations where we can let these guys cook? And oh my God, I mean, just Carter, he was very obviously the best pass rusher in this draft. It was not a debate. And I think though, the question was, is he like good? Is he like one of those, is he like Will Anderson Jr. level? Early results look really good. That's all I'll say. We don't have to get into it too much.
I wish he was in a single
Giants fan.
digit.
I'm pretty excited.
My big concern is Burns in 0, Thibodeau in 5, and then Carter in 51. Just aesthetically, it's not going to look good on the graphic, man.
51 is not cool. It's not cool.
You got to get him into like 8. I don't know if that's allowed in the Giants' history or not. A cool number.
If Dexter Lawrence stays healthy this year, I just don't. I don't know what you do. Okay, is this real? Let's go on the negative side. Bengals fans should be panicking about the defense.
Panic. They should be deeply, deeply concerned. I will tell you the sliver of hope that I retain that keeps me from panic.
Is the sliver of hope that Tanner McKee is a golden god and they just
Tanner McKee is the GOAT? That's a separate conversation. Schematically, when they walked out against the Eagles, and preseason schemes are always very vanilla. Yes, but they are immediately like run blitzing from depth on 1st and 10. And rotating coverage on the back end. And very clearly, Al Golden has an understanding that we are going to have to do some not unsound things. The defense coordinator would never say unsound, but we are going to have to do some high risk, high reward things to try to win some base downs, get into some second and longs, generate some turnovers, generate some explosives. Because if we just try to line up and play, we are going to get outmanned. We are going to get outgunned. And that is absolutely the case. Cincinnati's back 7 is not fast, not experienced, not particularly playmaking. They're in a new system. If they try to just line up and cover guys, they're going to lose, right? Defensive on the front, they have a little bit more talent. They have a little more potential. There's a chance they're better. But still, like, without Trey Hendrickson right now, the pass rush is nothing. And even then, the interior run defenses, you're kind of hoping and praying. So you have to get creative. And Golden's willingness to do so early indicates to me that they understand the reality of the situation. However, the situation is pretty dire.
So it's a little unfair to say that Tanner McKee dog walked the starters because Hendrickson didn't play, Cam Taylor-Britt didn't play, I believe Dax Hill didn't play, but there were a lot of guys out there.
Let me tell you something. You put those 3 on the field, McKee's going 23 for 30, 300 yards. Don't even worry about it.
I think your point is good. It really comes down to sort of creativity on the part of the defensive coordinator. I think also if they can get a little pass rush juice. Obviously, Hendrickson, assuming they, I think they're going to probably try to get something done with him. Shamar Stewart, the rookie, actually made some plays too. I think that's a little bit and it was interesting. Golden was lining him up everywhere. I don't know if you noticed, like they was really trying some stuff with him. He had the TFL. I thought he looked really explosive. Taven Bryan also, I made a couple plays. I didn't know he was on the former 1st-round draft pick, defensive tackle.
Yep.
But I just worry so much about this back end. I worry about the linebacking group, which I thought looked pretty rough. And then I worry about the corner room. Again, there were a couple guys out, but like DG Turner, Ivy was in this one. Like it is a bare cupboard. So, and then Geno Stone got hurt. I don't know if you saw that. I think to address the actual premise, it's less like panicking. It's more, I think, the feeling that this is going to be more of the same. Like this is, it just kind of, the hope is that, Al Golden, to your point, not only can be creative, but also in terms of taking some risks schematically, but also can develop some of these younger players, and it's early. So you're hoping like maybe the second half of the season, you see some guys take a leap, but early results concerning. Well, the flip side of that, I do want to address Is this real? Tanner McKee
Yes.
should be a starter.
People thought I was
Not
doing
in the
a
Eagles,
bit.
in the NFL. In the NFL.
People thought I was doing a bit when I said he could start, and I listed the teams. They're like, "This is ridiculous." I really don't think it is. And you can check my Tanner McKee receipts. I've been here for years. This was not off of one preseason film against the Bengals. The Week 18 game against the Giants, just making reads post snap on the fly, going through the process in the pocket. He was a 5-star recruit. I think he was 4 or 5. I'm pretty sure he was 5. He was a high caliber recruit who just missed some time at Stanford. He had, I want to say, a Latter-day Saints mission as well. So he was an older prospect coming out and just was a classic Howie Roseman day 3 dart throw. I think if you put McKee and you in the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, I absolutely think the training camp reports would be the best quarterback here at 16. I firmly believe that.
I see he went 20 for 25 for 252 yards. Again,
just a cool 10 yards for
a lot of starters. I think my takeaway was just that he looked like a vet. He looked so accurate and just again, especially after watching all the young players this preseason with their ups and downs. It was only ups with Tanner McKee. That said, he does have, of course, a lot more experience than some of these guys. I think doesn't give you a ton in terms of athleticism, but it's like, and I think that maybe that's sort of what has worked against him. You talked about being an older prospect. I think he's, when teams are thinking about their backups, there's this kind of you feel around the league, well, I want a guy at least maybe I can call have a robust designed quarterback run game. That's not what you're getting here, but what you are getting is a guy who can probably execute just about every offense in the league. I mean, I just, right. It's funny too. If it was any team other than Philadelphia, I would say trade bait, let's go. But they're in such a unique spot because they are obviously Super Bowl contenders to repeat. So it's weird, even though he's not a threat at all to Jalen Hurts. He is kind of paradoxically more valuable to them than he would be if he was on a bad team that might trade him. That said, I think it was you and Shield talking about not trading a second or accepting a second for him. You guys are freaking crazy. That was insane.
That was not me. I don't think, but I kind of blacked out after the game, and there's a chance that I said it. I said if Jerry Jones called me and offered Micah for McKee, I would tell him to throw in a pick. That's where I'm at on Tanner's value.
Okay.
Mina, did you hear feedback right now? Do you hear that sound back there?
No.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's just the quarterback factory in the background, just producing more and more good.
Okay, wait, no, gun to your head. What would be the floor for accepting if you're Howie Roseman for Tanner McKee?
So a lot of it depends on what I think of Kyle McCord and what I think of DTR / the veteran quarterback market. Because quarterback 2 is legitimately, the Eagles will tell you, one of the most important positions on their roster. I think if a team said, oh yeah, early day 3 pick, round 4, I'd be like, no, get serious. This is the day 2 pick at quarterback if you're going to take this.
What if they throw in
What did the Eagles trade for Kenny Pickett? That's the real question, because it's something more than that.
Yeah, but okay, what if, I know I'm dealing an insane hypothetical, there's a potential to get a starting corner back, because that was my other takeaway from this game. CB2 not looking so good in Philadelphia. Granted, it's pretty unfair to go up against Jamar Chase in the preseason. That should be outlawed. That said, This was a concern coming in. Would that maybe sway things for you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you can turn a QB2 into a starting corner in a time at which you think that you are a contending team looking to push back for the Super Bowl.
Correctly, yeah.
I think that's fair. It's also this case where it's all right, that needs to clearly be an improvement on Keely plus Adoree plus Jacorian, right? Because right now they have so many dart throws. So it'd have to be a dude. But yeah, I mean, I would hate to see him go. I would weep a little bit when I sent him, but I would send him, and then he would prosper elsewhere. Man, he would be a great player.
Okay.
I'm just saying the Geno arc is coming for Tanner McKee. Just you wait.
It's not really a Geno arc.
He's good, and I love him. That arc is coming.
Did you see the sign that Geno Smith did double birds to? That
I heard the sign was terrible. The
sign was like, Geno as big a bust as Jamarcus Russell, and I was like,
oh,
what? That doesn't even make sense. He wasn't a first round draft pick. He's not a bust. You acquired him for nothing in Seattle. It's just if you're gonna be an a-hole, at least be an accurate a-hole with your taunts. It's just, anyways. Obviously, I'm on Team Geno and Pete. I like how Pete backed him up with the double bird there.
Pete was trying to grab the sign. I saw that picture. He's jumping up there, all 72 years of him.
Miss him. Okay, couple more. Is this real? Tetairoa McMillan, T-Mac, really trying to practice not calling him Tet,
Yeah.
is going to finish as a top 20 receiver.
That feels rich, right? Like T. Higgins and Devontae Smith are like top 15 receivers, right?
Okay.
So 20 is probably too far. I think you can get me to like 30, right? I think he can be in that range. We talked about Abdul Carter and a sense of belonging. Watching T-Mac get off the line of scrimmage, watching him elevate for footballs, and watching him play against NFL caliber size corners, which the Browns backups for sure, right? It's no question. Like, we have more to say. It's very clear that he's going to be able to be the caliber of ball winner that, all right, like win the contested catch, win the vertical one-on-one stuff. Like that floor is there. The question with T-Mac was always the ceiling, right? I was like, okay, what can be as a route runner separator, middle of the field? And you just didn't see a ton of that from a usage perspective in this game. And I think with Bryce Young, that you're just not going to see a ton of that in general. But the box check for T-Mac, I think, is as emphatic as it was with Abdul Carter, where it's like, oh, the thing that we need you to be good at in year one, you're going to be good at that for sure.
He looked like, I hate to say this exact phrase again, he looked like he did in college.
You would hope, though. You would hope that we watched him in college and he looked like that, and then that happened. Yeah,
and especially if you're not going against, the best competition per se. It's harder to look like you did in college as a first-round draft pick when you're facing more challenging matchups. But the traits that he flashed in this preseason game, body control, the hands down the sideline, are exactly why he was the 8th overall pick. I also loved, I think after the go ball, which was awesome, Bryce hit him on like an inbreaker. I think it was like maybe the next play. Or
Yep.
Love more. I don't want him to be just a go ball merchant in this offense and just a guy who's winning on the perimeter. Very important in my mind that Dave Canales and Bryce Young, that he is a important part of this offense, working the middle of the field, which is something he's good at. I thought on slants, digs, using that big body to box out defenders and give an easy target to the quarterback. I also think Bryce Young, that's needs to be an important part of the offense for him, right? So seeing that, there's a little bit of miscommunication in the end zone, and then Bryce had the extended play with Coker where he redirected him back. I mean, that he's good too, man. I think that was the other thing I would say about like T-Mac as advertised. Awesome. Feeling good about this group, because what I've always said, and we're going to talk about this on the NFC South preview, what I always felt about T-Mac was if he could be the player that he was in college, the true number one X receiver in this offense, everybody else slots into such a nice spot. And you're like, ooh, I really like this group as a whole.
Yeah, I strongly agree. The thing about this wide receiver room that I love so much is that, firstly, you're enormous. And it's very clear priority from Dan Morgan to be like, let's just become as large as conceivably possible on offense. They did with the offensive line. And then, Coker, who's a speed threat UDFA out of Holy Cross downfield guy, is 6'3", 213, and it legitimately is like a field stretching caliber of a player. McMillan is 6'5", 212. Xavier Legette, who is lower on the depth chart than I thought it was. Where is Xavier Legette? Xavier Legette is... There he is, 17. 6'3", 227, right? Like, if that's your starting three, and if Adam Thielen is your primary slot player, you just have such a physical presence. But Coker's not really a great the middle of the field guy. They try to make Legette the middle of the field guy last year. Not necessarily.
You just want Legette clearing things out.
Yeah, exactly. Thielen, it used to be what he was really good at. He's a little bit long in the tooth now. If you can get that from T-Mac, then everybody else makes sense. And it's just, you can see how good it will be for Bryce, who just the thing that unlocked it for Bryce was, hey, just shoot, just fire. They're gonna make you right. Just go. If he has this big cadre of receivers who create that space, oh man, it's the window. It'll make it work.
Seeing T-Mac reward him for throwing that ball on the right sideline early on, I was just like, yes, this is going to build the habits, the timing. That's everything you wanted to see as a Panthers fan. So I'm feeling good about that. Okay, a couple more. Let's do this is a small one. So, I'm excited about obviously Geno Smith and this Chip Kelly and this Raiders offense. And I have no thoughts on like scheme or Geno or anything. However, is this real? Should Raiders fans be worried that the offensive line might limit this offense's potential, tank it in some ways?
Yeah, that's real. Like, I should be worried that it could, I think is correct, right? Like, there's no doubt that the interior of JPJ, who I thought the move to guard was good for JPJ. I thought they made him better last season. I think that's solid. But then it's Jordan Meredith at center and Dylan Parham on the right side, DJ Glaze there at right tackle. Just outside of Colton Miller, there's just a lot of if this, then that,
Yeah.
if he can do this, if we can take this step, if we have this improvement, then we have this caliber of a player. And when you introduce that many hypotheticals, you're going to miss one of them. And you're going to have at least one problem to solve. Once you have two or three, then you start running out of resources. I think that what Chip wants to be in terms of the running game, which is a highly multiple, a lot of different schemes, a lot of calls and checks at the line of scrimmage, sort of a rushing attack. I think that's a really tough ask for a line that doesn't have a ton of snaps together, has had some shuffling, and is generally inexperienced as well. And so I think you're going to see that Chip can't run the way he wants to run. And then, yeah, we know what Geno can be in the pocket, but we also know that one of his strengths is his willingness to just kind of hang back there against those pressures. And then you get the high interception games. And so there's concern.
To your point, there was a rep in the second drive where it was with Genty was still in the game, where I think they were trying to run like power or something. And DJ Glaze was trying to come across and the left side just got caved so quickly. It was DOA. And I was watching that thinking like, ooh, like to what you were saying about like Chip. However, I will say of note, they took out Colton and Parham, so it was backups on the left side of the offensive line in the second series. So I think you're worried about the interior, but the most of this game, it was not the starters on the left side of the offensive line. And I think the optimism would just be, okay, the depth sucks. If we can just get the interior squared away. But yeah, so if I'm an Ashton Genty fantasy holder, I'm not panicking, but you're a little nervous, not about him, but about the offensive line.
And they added Alex Kappa, and then they drafted two guys in the third round. They drafted Caleb Rogers out of Texas Tech, and then the William and Mary, I think his name is Grant. Charles Grant, who I liked William and Mary quite a bit. I liked Charles Grant coming out of the process as a 2026 guy, right? He was always going to be a developmental player. Rogers is a tackle kick to guard player. So you have dart throws. It's the middle of August. You would have liked, if one of those dart throws was going to be a contributor for you in year one, you would have expected to hear more about it by now. And so I think that the five they got starting is probably the five they got starting. And maybe by midseason, they have a surprising contributor, but just right now, it doesn't sound like they're getting that from some of those offseason ads.
Is this real? The Jacksonville Jaguars only have to gain 10 yards after every touchback to score because they have the greatest weapon in football, Cam Little, on their side. 70-yard field goal for those who missed this incredible moment. I looked up his stats just curious to see, like, is it so as a rookie last year, he was a 6th-round draft pick. He went 5 for 6 on 50-yarders and he hit a 59-yarder. So this isn't like totally out of nowhere. But holy
what I want to know is who on the sideline was the first person to be like, listen, even if we don't get it past the 50, like, let's just do it, right? Like because Cohen talked about this a little bit in the post-game presser. He was like, we were trying to do like end of half situation. We're gonna run quick play and try to get it past the 50, and then to win the game, like the Justin Tucker kick against the Lions a couple of years ago, right? Just get it close enough and we'll try. But they didn't end up doing it. They didn't get past the 50. And he was like, Cam looked at it, was like, let's do it. I just want to try. And Cam was like, sure, whatever, preseason, like fine. But I need to know, like, on the Tuesday before the preseason game, did the special teams coach come to Cohen and be like, listen, our range is, to our 45-yard line? That's just a preposterous thing to say.
What does it mean, though, in all seriousness? If you have a kicker who you feel comfortably can hit, let's say, 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that actually change your approach on game day?
I think it changes the last 30 seconds of both halves, which feels insignificant. That's one of 60 minutes in a game clock, but it's actually extraordinarily significant. Like thinking about Bills Chiefs playoff game from a couple years ago, the 13-second game, the defensive structure that you're going to get in end of half, end of game, it's a 3-point game, it's a 1-point game situations, is predicated on an idea of like, okay, we generally know the yard line that you're going to try to get to. And if I can shave 5 yards off of that, and I'd say, no, actually, we don't need to get to your 40. We just need to get to your 45, your 48. Then it becomes a lot easier to execute that 6-second play, because a lot easier to execute that 14-second, throw the seam, fall down and spike it. and then you get the chance to get the kickoff. And then once you get the chance to get the kickoff, close your eyes, say your prayers, cross yourself, and see what Cam Little does. Like you did your job. And so I think it changes your operation there in the last 30 seconds of each half, which can turn a loss into a win and can turn a 17 into a 6 seed. Can turn a wild card to a divisional round. And that's significant.
Yeah, it's you got both sides are now baking that into their models. People are always like, they don't know who's on the field. They know who's on the field. And if you're playing a team with a kicker who can routinely hit 50 plus yards, that is something you're baking into how you approach situational football, particularly at the end of halves, as you pointed out. That's a big deal. Okay, final one. Is this real? The Rashawn Slater injury is dooming the Chargers offense before the season starts. I'm going with the most dramatic possible interpretation of this. It's a big one.
It breaks my heart to say yes, but the vibes are really bad. When you sign Mike Williams in free agency and bring him back to the Chargers, and then when he gets hurt, your solution is to sign Keenan Allen back to join the Chargers again. I'm already in a position where I'm like, you are so tempting fate. You are so lining up a full Charger ring right now that it felt like something was going to come down the mountain. And for Slater, just mere weeks after the extension to then have a season-ending knee injury, in a season in which the Chargers addressed all their other positions but didn't address the offensive line the way we were hoping to, and now it's year 2. Let's switch the side of Joe Alt, our first-round tackle, to get Trey Pipkins back on the field. It's way too much Charger behavior for me to ignore the ominous clouds circling on the horizon.
So I will say Trey Pipkins, is not a disaster at right tackle, right? Like we're not looking at this and thinking every, Justin Herbert is going to be dead out there. Joe Alt, of course, played left tackle in college. The position switch for him, a rookie, was going to the right side. Mm-hmm. There's hope that you can still get pretty high level play out of him. Pipkins, I think 2023, he started it. He's played at every position, I feel like, for the Chargers over the years. 2022, they did a 3-year deal with him, and then he played right tackle. So it's not awful. I think it just limits the ceiling in a way, because there was already I already had questions about the interior of the Chargers offensive line.
Yes.
The tackles were supposed to be the strength, but now it's no longer a strength. Once again, the line is a question mark. I think there's a world in which you can get average offensive line play out of this unit. It's not entirely outside the realm of possibility, but the vision I had for this offense where the run game's going to be so much better, and obviously they invested in, Marion Hampton and whatnot, that to me is a little bit murkier. And I feel like once again, we are going to be forced to say, yeah, but Justin Herbert was under pressure on, X% of dropbacks.
Yep. And the other thing is that I would feel a lot better about our wide receiver room is primarily a slot receiver in Ladd McConkey, and then we added another slot in Keenan Allen. We're trying to figure out the downfield stuff. I feel a lot better about that. I feel a lot better about we have 4 tight ends that we're going to rotate, and we don't really have one clear emphatic starter. I'd feel a lot better about, hey, we thought we had to help our interior offensive line, and now we have to send more help to our right tackle now because our left tackle injury. I feel so much better about all this if I really, really trusted the offensive coaching staff. And I really felt like the offensive coaching staff had proven that they are good at not just installing what they do, but in coaching around the limits and the realities of their depth chart, which for everything that Greg Roman brings very positively as a running game designer, as an innovator, as a pistol, a quarterback option run game, for all the positives he's brought, Roman has historically showed that he struggles when it's time to coach around the limitations on your roster. And this offensive roster has some limitations. And so I dread the film I'm going to turn on in week 7, when after 6 games of Trey Pipkins getting attacked on passing downs, and we're just back to the same stuff week in and week out.
All right. Well, something to watch.
Fun note to end on.
I have the Chargers actually next Saturday. They're playing the Rams, and I suspect that we will see the starting offensive line because they're going to want to get combination reps. So that will be an interesting one to watch. Ben, as always, great to have you on. Have to have you on again soon before you go on leave. once the season starts. I'll be back later this week with the NFC South with John Ledyard, wrapping with the AFC South, our final division, the week after that.